Welcome to NPC, Next Portable Console, a show about the games we take with us. I'm one of your co-hosts, Federico Ticci, and it's my pleasure to be joined, as always, by Mr. Brendon Bigley. Hey, Brendon.
Hello. Welcome back.
It's good to be back. And hello, John Voorhees. Hey, John.
Hey, Federico. How you doing?
I am so glad to be back. I took a bit of a break, and I had a scheduling conflict the last time you recorded. You did an excellent job recording you two. It was really fun episode. And I came back because I have a bunch of surprises for you guys today. I have been working on something in secret for the past 3 months, maybe it's approaching 4 months. And in fact, I have 4 surprises for you today. Well,
Wow.
I guess only one you know about. Three are actual surprises. But it's a four-piece sort of a setup that I have. But before we get to that, it's gonna come in a few minutes. We have a bit of a news recap that we need to go over.
Yeah, we do. We do, absolutely. And I think I want to start us off today with the Genki SavePoint, which is
Mm,
a Kickstarter that just launched. I don't know, I guess it was as we put this out a week ago or so.
yeah,
And this is a cool little SSD device that
yeah.
connects to a Windows handheld or a Steam Deck. And it can be used for a lot of different things. It can be used for just extra storage as an external drive, but it can also be used to dual boot into either Windows or Bazite, which to me is the most intriguing part about this because I immediately back this. I want to try this. It seems like the easy way to get Bazite on the Legion Go and doing it in an external way without having to like go in, replace my drive to get more storage, and then partition my drive and install everything. This just seems like a much easier way to go.
Yeah, I'm stoked about this thing. I've had a little bit of like a Steam Deck renaissance in my life over the
Mm,
past couple weeks.
interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
and honestly, something like this just making it so easy to get Windows on there. Just to explain what this looks like a little bit, it's basically like a little kind of rectangle that you can mount onto the back of your device, and
Right.
then it's a little awkward because there's a cable that has to come out the top and then connect to the USB port on whatever device you're using. So if it's like the Legion Go and it has it on both sides, I guess you could do it wherever. But for something like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally, you're gonna have to kind of mount it towards the top. On the ROG Ally, it also kind of covers some of the air vents, which
Mm,
is a little bit concerning maybe.
yeah.
But the Steam Deck, it steers clear of that stuff, thankfully. Um, I'm just very interested in the idea of booting Windows on my Steam Deck without needing to actually partition the drive that's built into that thing. I think that by itself kind of makes this worth it for me to
Yeah.
try out, and it's like cheap too. That's the thing that's really
Yeah.
surprising. It's like pretty cheap. It's like what, $40, $30 US, something like that.
It is. If you
Seems like
just
kind of
get
a
the
no-brainer.
shell, yeah, and then you can add. I guess they have an option to add the SSD in, or you can use
Yeah.
your own. And what's neat about it is, like as you said, you can add Windows to a Steam Deck, but you can also add SteamOS to a Windows handheld. So
Yeah.
there's an argument to get two of these if you have both types of consoles, and be able to switch back and forth on either device.
Or get one and sell the other console,
There you go.
Mm,
and then it's free. Or maybe you're even making money at that point.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting because like literally last week, I did the thing where so I got an ROG Ally X, which I want to bring to the show in the next episode.
Nice.
But I did the thing where I upgraded my internal drive from 1 terabyte to 4 terabytes, and I partitioned two and two, and I did Windows and Bazite. So
Nice.
my ROG Ally is now dual booting either into Windows or into Bazite. And Bazite, I did try on my Legion Go about 3-4 months ago before we had a show together,
Yeah.
and I can already tell you like it has considerably improved since the last time I tried it in terms of just general stability and booting into like this dual environment. The
Mhm.
installation process is much easier than it used to be. You do have to like take care of a bunch of Linuxy type things when you first
Hmm.
set it up, but it's so much easier than 3 months ago. And it seems like of all these Linux distros that are sort of floating around to bring the SteamOS like experience to handheld PCs, it seems like Bazite is the one that has the most momentum right now. And I can tell you, it's very exciting to be able to have an ROG Ally that has suspend and resume, just like a Steam Deck, where it actually loses like 1 or 2% battery on a daily basis when
Yeah.
it's in sleep mode. It's great. It's amazing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that
but I'll
is
bring this
amazing.
to the show. I'll bring this to the show for the next episode. But I think for most people who don't want to deal with that sort of stuff, like getting this simple accessory for like $40, and suddenly you can have that experience on a Steam Deck. I think it's so clever, and one of us should get it and try it. We should
Y-
talk about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna throw it on my Steam Deck. It seems like something I just need to do.
Hmm.
I did see, just while we're talking about it, I did see that the latest update to SteamOS on the Steam Deck has mentions of the ROG
Mm,
Ally in its code.
yeah.
Very
Oh,
interesting.
interesting.
It's interesting because, like, usually they have support for those devices in the Steam client. So in the actual like Steam app on your PC, they add
Yeah.
support, like they mentioned support for ROG Ally or Legion Go. But to have the ROG Ally specifically mentioned in the SteamOS build, that is interesting because why would you do it? And I was actually thinking about this while I was on I was at the beach and thinking about Valve and SteamOS,
Of course you are.
as you do.
As
Um,
you do, yeah.
but I was thinking, like, should Valve actually open up SteamOS and actually make it easier for these other companies? Because on one hand, you could say, well, Valve is making money off of the hardware sales of the Steam Deck, but there's also an argument for Valve making more money if more devices can have Steam and more people are purchasing games via Steam,
Yeah.
and Valve making commissions off of software. So it's tricky. It kind of reminds me of it kind of reminds me of the Apple situation. Should Apple make it easier for should they make the money off of the hardware sales or commissions from a service? And I think Valve is soon gonna end up in a similar scenario.
Interesting. Yeah. I think what we're seeing with Apple is that the answer is that they need both, right? They're symbiotic
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. It does raise some questions though about Steam, just considering they're so dominant in the gaming landscape as far as their storefront is concerned, that like I think just making it more available to more people is probably the move for them.
I think
Um,
so too.
yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of stores, what's the deal with the Xbox mobile store? What's happening there? And also, I I think I completely forgot that Microsoft was gonna do an Xbox mobile store.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that too. From what the reporting is, it looks like they are beta testing it right now, but it was supposed to launch in July. Obviously, it's August. It's not out yet, but they seem to be working on it still, according to this story we saw on The Verge.
Yeah, the thing that's worth considering about where Xbox's and just Microsoft's gaming kind of landscape is at the moment is that their acquisition of Blizzard, I think Activision Blizzard is the way a lot of people refer to it, but it's Activision Blizzard King is the name of the
Hmm.
company, and
Hmm.
King makes things like Candy Crush, which basically is the reason that Xbox is turning a profit as a business unit for Microsoft right now. Like it
Right.
is really just squarely on the fact that like King is doing very well. On the Activision side, obviously Call of Duty is doing very well. So them building out a mobile store that has Candy Crush and Call of Duty Mobile built into it does make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. I think it's just a question of how they're going to get that to work with
Yeah.
Apple and with Google, and are they all going to play nice together suddenly? It's interesting that they're even testing it this early, and that they seemed confident at one point that it would launch in July. But I'm interested to see what it looks like when it finally happens, and also how enticing it is to people. Like I know that obviously, considering the money, some real Candy Crush diehards out there. What are they getting in the Xbox mobile store version of Candy Crush that's going to make it worth it for them to not just use the one that's on the App Store?
Hmm.
Why download a whole other app to get Candy Crush again and hypothetically maybe even like start their progress from the beginning? I don't know. There are a lot of weird questions about how you entice people to do that. Like something like Alt Store makes a lot of sense, right? Alt Store
Right.
is like, oh, you're getting apps that you can't get elsewhere.
Right.
Download Alt Store.
Yeah.
Something like this seems a little bit more nebulous and a little more like a big corporation just assuming that if they release something, it will work. And I don't know how you change user habits that have been ingrained in people since 2008 or whatever.
Hmm. So do we think that Have they said that the goal is to have like mobile games for sale in this store, or could it be something like, well, you can stream something like a PC or Xbox games? Are these gonna be mobile only games?
I think the streaming is what works with the current App Store guidelines. I mean, that's now
Yeah.
allowed worldwide. Having a separate store still isn't allowed unless you're in the EU. So I would suspect it's maybe more like streaming, but who knows? I agree. It's just kind of a confused mess. There's not a lot of information out there right now about what
Yeah.
the intentions are.
What Sarah Bond from Xbox has said publicly is that they're focusing on Call of Duty and Candy Crush to begin
Interesting.
with,
Okay.
and that they'll be extending it to partners in the future.
Hmm.
Who knows what any of that means? And also, it doesn't seem to include streaming, which seems like the obvious slam dunk thing to
So
be
maybe
releasing.
it is a mobile store. Like it is actually a mobile store with.
That seems to be what they're doing. Yeah,
I
Okay.
kind of wonder if maybe they want to do what Netflix is doing, where
right.
like you have a central. Obviously, Netflix has the Netflix app where you go watch your TV shows and movies, and also you see the games, and you tap on a game, and then you're taken to the App Store. Um, Maybe they could do something like that, where you download the Xbox app and you see a quote unquote mobile store, but when you
Yeah.
tap on those games, um, you're taken to the Apple App Store. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. It's so unclear.
That could be it. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's clear: a laptop with perfume inside of it.
I love this thing.
Okay, so this is the world's first laptop with built-in fragrance. The Asus Book 14, and I'm gonna read you just a tiny quote from this article. One of the unique features of this system is a custom fragrance dispenser located in the lid, containing an infused fragrance sheet. The CNC cut cover is magnetically attached, making it easier for users to replace. Although the fragrance sheet size suggests it won't last long, the package includes 3 different fragrances to change. So, do you want your computer to smell nice? Now you can. You can get the Asus Book 14 that has a little sheet of perfume inside of it. And,
See, I would have thought, Federico, that you would just take this fragrance sheet and put it right on the heatsink because you've already got fans,
Well-
you've already got things that get really hot in this laptop. Why not,
and look, actually, the specs on this computer are not even pretty decent. Like it's a
Yeah, they're not
sure.
bad.
Yeah,
it's
a good
14
computer.
inch OLED display, refresh rate up to 240 hertz. It's got one of the Ryzen, what is it, the 8945H Ryzen processor. Like, it's a pretty good computer. And also, it has perfume inside, and it's
Yeah.
sort of rechargeable. I have no idea why Asus is making this thing. It's some kind of partnership with this fragrance manufacturer. I have no idea why it exists, but I saw the headline and it needed to be mentioned on the show.
The price isn't bad either. Now that I'm looking at it, it's
It's
under
a
$1,000.
It's a pretty good computer.
A terabyte of storage, 32 gigs of RAM. That's not a bad computer. That's
That's
like
a-
a pretty good computer.
Nice display,
thing-
too.
When I saw this in our notes, my first assumption before I clicked on it and saw what it actually was, when I was at PAX, the Penny Arcade Expo, which is a convention that happens around the U.S. I think there's one outside of the U.S. now, but anyway, around the U.S. there's one called PAX East in Boston, and I went earlier this year and met up with a company who is working on a little USB powered device that will just like shoot smells out based on what's happening in games that you're
Okay.
playing. So it's like
Okay.
creating smell-o-vision. And
Okay.
they were
Okay.
like, what I loved about it specifically was that it was really trying to be like hardcore and like cool
Sure.
and
Okay.
really for people who are playing like Call of Duty and Valorant and Counter-Strike and stuff, because they were like, we have perfected the smell of a grenade. And I'm like, I don't know if I need that.
Nice.
I
Now
don't
you
know
can
if that's-
smell blood when you play Call of
Yeah,
Duty.
exactly.
You're right.
It's like there's I forget the name of the company. I think it's called OVO. There's another company that's making a full body suit that you can wear while playing Assassin's Creed that will like
Oh my god.
make it feel like you're being stabbed when you
Oh, that's
die.
that's
Oh
nice. I
no!
remember reading
Oh
about
no!
that.
No!
Yeah.
No! Absolutely not.
And
Absolutely
I
not.
thought that that's what this realm of device was going to be when I clicked on the notes, and I was so thrilled to see that it was just literally like a fragrance sheet that you would throw in the
Yes.
dryer, but
Yeah.
put in
It's
your
an air
laptop instead.
freshener for your
Yeah.
computer
It's an air
room.
freshener for your computer, and that has a dedicated slot, and you just put it in, and now your computer smells like roses or whatever. Yes. So
And it's like a nice lilac color. I don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's a great computer. I would
I think
recommend
it's a
it.
nice computer.
It gets the NPC seal of approval.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Yeah, thumbs up across the board.
Yes. Yes. Good
Shout
job. Good job, Aces. John, what's the deal with this Super Nintendo chip?
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. There are, if you look at the Super Nintendo, the history of its hardware, there are a couple of different models that were released over time, and some of them were somewhat compromised in terms of the graphics. And so that's made the ones that have better graphics that were a refresh and an update later down in its hardware cycle more valuable and more sought after by people. And this is a chip that's been created by a modder that can this is not an easy mod. You have to really get into the guts of your SNES, but if you do, you can add this chip and it effectively takes any Super Nintendo and gives it those better graphics. So it's like a $60 chip. You have to solder it onto your board in your Super Nintendo, and it'll give you overall better graphics and better color too. I think better color saturation.
It's one of those things where you don't even realize that it could look better until it does.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, like looking at some of these before and after screens in the video, it's like remarkable how good it
Yeah.
already looked and how much better it looks with this chip installed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does.
This is
look
not a
much
thing that I'm
better.
going to pick up, but I'm very happy for the people who are losing their minds over this.
Yeah, it's also incredible that there's still like an active community of modders that are
Yeah.
building these things.
Yeah,
like,
for the
what,
original hardware, yeah.
30 years later. Like, it's incredible. Just incredible story. Before we get to the main topic of this episode, I thought we just mentioned a couple of new handhelds that are now available.
Not by Ambernick.
Not by Ambernick. In
It's our
fact,
first
this-
episode without a new Ambernick device ever.
True.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Well, leave it. I'm sure that in 2 weeks we'll have new Ambernick devices to cover. But today we are gonna mention 3 AYANEO devices. They're now available. So the Pocket S. I think we mentioned this in maybe one of the first episodes.
I think
This
so.
is this is AYANEO's new sort of high-end, fancy Android. It's basically AYANEO's answer to the AYAN Odin 2.
Mhm.
It's a very premium looking Android based device, kind of expensive as we expected, but it looks great. And I've seen some reviews, I think I saw that like the thermals aren't incredible and it can be a little uncomfortable to hold. But it looks like it looks like a beautiful piece of hardware. It's got a 16-inch 1440p IPS display, running a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 system on a chip. So just like the AYANEO Odin 2, you can throw any kind of emulation at it, and it's gonna run those games. You know, GameCube, PS2, upscaled 2x, 3x, no problem. I think it looks beautiful. I also think it's kind of. I think it's very expensive. Like we're talking starting at $400, going all the way up to almost 700, I believe, depending on configuration. So
Yeah.
not a huge surprise coming from AYANEO that they tend to be on the expensive side. In fact, we're gonna mention another one in just a few seconds. But yeah, I don't know if you guys are interested in this one, but I think I'm gonna pass.
I'm very interested in it purely based on aesthetics.
Yeah.
And the price is really preventing me from doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it looks amazing, but this is just I'm taking a hard pass on actually all of these devices.
Mm. Well,
Yes.
the next one. So it's a combo of 2 devices that were previously announced, and now they are. So the Pocket S is now shipping.
Right.
These other 2 are now available on Indiegogo for shipping in a couple of months, I think. It's the Pocket DMG and the Pocket Micro. So these are AYANEO's versions of the original Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance Micro. The Pocket DMG is a weird beast in that it looks like a Game Boy. It's a vertical handheld, but it's got what is it, like a 4-inch OLED display, if I'm not mistaken, something like that.
Yeah, I believe that's
Um,
correct.
and it
Yes.
has an analog stick in the bottom left corner, and I don't know. It's a
Also a
very
touchpad
and also a
next to the
touchpad
analog stick.
Yeah,
next
I
to
don't
the
like the design of this one at all, personally.
it. Just looking at there's one of the promo shots on Indiegogo showing like two hands holding the device. Just looking at that picture makes my hands uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Just like that.
It's almost
Yeah.
like a claw grip to hold and use it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
deeply weird. Yeah, it's a deeply weird device. This is one that I'm really excited to see reviewers talk about and
Mhm.
never consider buying. Like this
Exactly.
is
Exactly.
it'll be really great to live vicariously through other people who are being sent this thing. But it just, especially at the price at what
Yeah.
is it, 400 or
For
sorry, 340.
340 early bird pricing going all the
Yeah.
way up to 450 later. So
When you're more expensive than the Analog Pocket, you know something has gone wrong
yes.
along the line.
Yeah. Yeah, and you guys were just talking, in the last episode about the analog pocket in aluminum at $500. So yeah, this is approaching that territory. Like it's a Game Boy, and it's gonna cost you almost $500. There's, I mean, I'm curious to see what market there is out there for this type of device.
I think
Yeah, maybe it
analog.
comes out and people love it, you know?
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, well,
maybe.
analog will probably tell you that it's a pretty small market based on what the sales have been like for the aluminum one so far.
It's
Mhm.
true. I will say
Um,
with this product photography though, it does look a lot like a futuristic, like a retro future
It
gaming
does.
device.
Yes. Yes.
It fits right into the world of Sunny, that new
Yeah.
Apple TV show with
Yep.
Rashida Jones. Like I feel like I could see people in that universe playing with this thing.
Yeah, it does look like what if back in the 80s they had like the technological advancements that we have today. It almost it kind of has the same vibe of the accessories, like of the tech products that you sometimes see in the Apple TV show For All Mankind.
Hmm.
Yes.
It sort of has that vibe of like, yeah, it looks old, but also it's modern.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, it's kind of expensive. And they also have on Indiegogo available now the Pocket Micro. So this is less expensive. This is like $200
Yeah.
early bird pricing. But I don't know. I have never been a Game Boy Advance Micro person myself. Like it just my hands are giant compared to the micro form factor. And I remember getting one when I was like 15 or 16 and playing for like 20 minutes and realizing I'm gonna die. My hands are gonna fall off my arms because it's so uncomfortable. It's way too small for me. But I know that plenty of people love it. So, and it's very
Well, and
pocketable.
they've crammed analog sticks in here, and it's pretty thick too. It's got a big battery, which is both good and bad, I think, potentially.
Yeah, it's weird because they're comparing it to the Micro, but it is significantly bigger than the Micro was.
Yes.
It's closer to the size of like like the original Game Boy Advance than the Micro,
But it's
which is
shorter.
weird.
But like it's not
Yeah,
as tall.
it-
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not as tall. That's true.
I like the look of this thing. I just think it's bigger than I want it to be, and I'm really confused about how powerful it is. Because it seems like it runs Android, which is interesting, and has like I mean, at least based on the promotional images, it's powerful enough to run Genshin Impact on it. So you could probably
Mm.
emulate some stuff on there. Maybe like,
Right.
just pulling this out of thin air, but like maybe like really low end GameCube stuff, maybe even downscaled.
Maybe.
But at $200, you're then competing with, the Retroid Pocket 4, which at that
Mhm.
point you should probably get the Retroid Pocket 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. This is like kind of like a fun like brick looking thing. And I don't know. This is one where like if people really really like it, I'm considering picking one up out of curiosity, but I'm mostly a no currently on this.
Mhm.
Yeah. It is probably the most interesting of the three we've discussed. I mean, it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the size and the form factor. I think more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have an image showing playing Balatro, and that got
Yeah.
me very confused for a second.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're streaming Balatro, or maybe just a bad Photoshop or something. Um,
Yeah. There is a way there's like a Balatro APK builder where you can like get some of the
oh
files from your
yeah,
Steam version and then like
I've seen that.
Yeah,
shove them into
people.
something else and
Yep,
then it
I've seen that
yeah,
too.
builds out an APK. So maybe it's that. I don't know.
Hmm. Well, do we have anything else to cover in terms of news recap? Is there
I
anything
have
else?
just one small thing, Federico, that I want to
Okay.
mention, which is, this show has been my main excuse to purchase a lot of handhelds. But I found another excuse, and that is Tropical Storm Debbie. I'm sitting here as we record in a huge rainstorm that's going on for 24 hours. I have charged every retro handheld up to 100%, and if the power goes out, I am all set. I will just go from
Golden.
device to device to device with all my batteries and all my handhelds playing games until the power comes back on. So I just wanted to share with you guys that you have an excuse. If you see a big storm coming to New York or Rome, you
Mhm.
know, charge everything up and have an
Yeah.
excuse to buy another handheld.
The arms of Debbie are reaching up into New York right now.
Are they?
Like I'm getting some rain and wind currently. So
See, there you
maybe
go.
I'll
You're
start
all
charging
set.
everything up. I'll take them all off the shelf behind me and start plugging them in.
So, John,
And keep a close eye on them also.
right, obviously, you don't want them flying off into the storm,
I
of
want
course.
It's starting a
this to
fire
happen
on top of
to
your
you. I
on
was
top
just
of the
gonna
storm.
pick up.
So, John, you charged everything. Like you're ready to go, like Nintendo
Oh yeah, I
Switch,
literally did. I
everything,
plugged every
everything.
single device in last
Oh my
night, got it
God.
up to
Oh my God.
100%, and
Oh
I'm
my
not joking.
God.
I'm ready to go.
Oh my God. Well, thank you for the update, John, and we
Sure.
wish you the best of luck. Obviously, be safe, and
Thank you.
obviously play games if the power goes out.
Yeah, so far so
Um,
good though. I still have power because we're recording.
nice, perfect. Okay, so I want to take you guys on a bit of a journey for the
I'm very
next
excited.
30 to 40 minutes. And it's a bit of a story that started many months ago. And as with many things lately, I like to say that it's Brandon's fault.
Oh, okay. It's good that
Yeah,
it's not my
so
fault for once.
it started. No, it's not your fault this time, John. It's more Brandon. So it started
Okay.
months ago when Brandon and Steven on Into the Aether mentioned that their season premiere for the new season of Into the Aether was going to be about the GameCube.
Mm.
And that got me thinking, because the GameCube is for me my favorite console of all time. And as this is something that I realized growing up, it's the console that I have, the fondest memories of. It's the console with the games that really shaped my taste. I was playing with the GameCube. I was 13, 14. So like really my formative years in high school. I have my best memories of playing Super Smash or Mario Kart Double Dash with my friends, finishing the first Luigi's Mansion with my friends, watching in front of my CRT TV in my parents' bedroom. Uh, like all of my memories from those times are something that I really cherish and bring with me to this day. And when you guys mentioned we're gonna talk about the GameCube, I thought, well, that's maybe a good time for me to really revisit the GameCube library,
Yeah.
which is something that I haven't done in many years. I played and finished Wind Waker on Dolphin emulator many years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, and that was it. But I
Mm.
never really intentionally revisited the GameCube library. And so I started thinking about this, and I kind of wanted it to happen around the same time as the Into the Other episode in the summer, because I felt like, well, maybe that's gonna be fun. I can
Mm.
listen to the episode and I can have my experience playing those games again and having fresh thoughts about those games as I listen to Brandon and Steven talking about it. So obviously the first step was, well, I'm gonna go to my mom's house and I'm gonna gather my old GameCube collection because my mom has been kind enough to keep boxes of all my stuff, my video game magazines, my old games, and my old consoles. I'm gonna grab my GameCube games and I'm gonna figure out how to digitize the entire collection so that I don't have to use an actual GameCube or an actual Nintendo Wii if I wanna play those games. And
Mhm.
so I got those games and I soon realized, well, the easiest way for me to take these games because I didn't want to download. I should say this: I didn't want to download those games off of the internet. The arrival of emulators on the iPhone this year really sort of cemented this idea inside of me. Like, I want to be able to rip my own games and play my own files. It's probably silly. Most people shouldn't have to do it, but it makes me feel good, and I really wanted to do it.
Hmm.
So I soon realized that instead of modding a GameCube to rip those games, obviously those mini discs from the GameCube, you cannot put like in a
Right.
regular like CD drive.
Right.
I realized that the easiest way was to not use a GameCube, but to use a Nintendo Wii.
Yes.
So I went ahead, I found my old Wii, and through some research, it actually was pretty easy. I
It
realized
is
that
really easy.
it is
Yes.
really
Yeah.
easy.
It has
There's a
to be a
bunch of
first gen Wii though, too, doesn't it? I mean, I
Oh,
think that
it
they.
is. Oh, you know it is a first gen Wii. Man, I got it on day one in Italy in
Oh yeah, so I
2006.
had the first
It is
gen
a
one too.
first. It is. It is a first gen Wii.
This is
Absolutely.
exactly what we did with some of our games.
Yep. So I modded my Nintendo Wii, and you can do it so easily. Like, you
Yeah.
just need to install like this special package, and then you need to open like your message board or something. And there's a little mail with a bomb symbol that like
Mm-hmm.
explodes and mods your Nintendo Wii. It's wild. And what's even wilder is that there's still an active community of people um, releasing homebrew software for the Nintendo Wii. And I want to give a shout out to the Wii Hacks subreddit, where there's still people to this day. Like, one of the wildest things I've seen is a Chat GPT client for the Nintendo Wii
Oh wow.
called, I think it's called Wii GPT or something. And you can
Of course.
actually
Whoa, man! Chat GPW was right
Yeah,
there.
or
exactly.
maybe even chat gpt with two, I don't know, something like that they could have done.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can use chat gpt on a Nintendo Wii. And so I got
That's
all the
funny.
pieces together, modded my Nintendo Wii, and obviously I realized, well, how am I gonna one of the initial struggles was, how am I gonna look at at the Nintendo Wii. In Europe, the Nintendo Wii and the GameCube used a connector called the SCART connector.
Oh
I
right,
think
right.
that's a European standard. It was different in the US. And I don't have, like, SCART connectors haven't been seen on European televisions in 20 years.
Hmm.
So I got on Amazon a Nintendo Wii to HDMI connector. And basically, the way that I did this was I used my iPad Pro as a display for the Nintendo Wii. I used the HDMI converter, then I got an HDMI capture card, and I used the Orion app on my iPad Pro to basically act as a TV set for my Nintendo Wii.
Hmm.
This rocks.
I used a homebrew piece of software called CleanRip on the Nintendo Wii. And CleanRip, it just lets you put in a Nintendo GameCube disc, and you give it a few minutes, and it creates an ISO file for you. So that's how, over the course of 2 to 3 weeks, I slowly but surely digitized about 30, 35 games. And in the process, I also filled some gaps in my collection. I took it as an opportunity to do some digging on eBay, Amazon US, some private sellers in Italy, and I got some games that I was missing, like Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door,
Mm.
Chibi Robo, Custom
Oof.
Robo. All the games that eventually Brandon and Steven would also
Yeah.
mention on Into the Aether, I was able to acquire them
Nice.
and digitize them. So,
Custom Robo's the big one. I'm glad you got that.
oh yeah, man. Um, so after I had this collection of files, I sort of came to a fork in the road, so to speak. I started thinking, well, okay, I did the thing. I have the files. I have a folder in Dropbox with all my games, and these are my games. How am I going? How do I want to play them? Do I want to emulate these games, or do I still want to use original hardware? Um,
Mm.
on a modded Nintendo Wii, you can, for example, load GameCube games off of USB. There's a piece of software that allows you to play those GameCube games and still use like native memory cards. But obviously, emulation in 2024 has so many advantages, right? You have obviously better graphics via upscaling. So you can take a GameCube game and upscale it to 2x, 3x, 4x, install custom textures, install
Right.
graphical mods, install patches for things like widescreen, for example.
Yeah.
There's a game like Wind Waker, for example, that has the doesn't because and this is something that you mentioned in your GameCube retrospective, because the GameCube was still so new in terms of like how to make 3D games, and the idea of moving the camera around was still so new at the time. Wind Waker has an inverted camera, and it doesn't have any settings to let you change how the camera moves with the C stick. While with emulation, you can install a cheat code that lets you change the camera, for example. So emulation has many advantages and quality of life features like save states, which is something that obviously on a native GameCube you cannot do. You can save. If the game doesn't autosave, you need to save at a save point. But at the same time, while emulation has a lot of quality of life features, nothing beats the feel of like you're playing the game on its original hardware. There's no performance loss. There's no
Mm.
weird bugs or glitches or limitations.
Right.
Like you're playing the game at full speed. Sure, you don't have any mods, you don't have any modern quality of life features, but the game runs like it used to run 20 years ago. And that's when I realized, well, why choose? Why not both? And so I started down this path, and this is where the journey begins. I remembered 5 years ago coming across this video by a person who goes by the name on YouTube of Ginger of Mods. And I remembered this video saying, I built a portable Wii that plays all of the GameCube games. And I remember like, okay, I remember there was this person who somehow took a Nintendo Wii and made a portable out of it.
Yeah.
And the portable was called the Louie. So I watched that video and I realized I want this. I need to have a portable Wii.
Uh-huh.
And the idea is that the Louie, I'm going to send you later a YouTube link, and everybody will be able to find these links in the show notes. There's going to be plenty of links.
Great.
The idea is that the Louie and other similar portable Wiis, all these hardware modders are taking a Nintendo Wii and they are trimming the Nintendo Wii motherboard using a Dremel to make it smaller, and while keeping all of the essential components of the Nintendo Wii motherboard. So the CPU, the GPU, and the memory controllers, like just the essentials. Cutting out from the motherboard, you're actually physically trimming the motherboard to make it smaller so that it can fit inside of a portable device. A portable device that obviously you need to 3D print. A portable device that obviously needs to have, at this point, a built-in battery.
Right.
The Louie is using an open source battery module and an open source power management system. So out of the blue, back in May, I got in touch with Ginger and
Nice.
sent them an email. I was like, hey, do you happen to have a Louie available for sale?
Yeah.
Well, here it is.
Whoa. Wow.
Here it is.
That looks
This is-
amazing.
So this is the
No
Louie.
way. It looks
This is-
awesome.
This is, let's see if it turns on. Should be charged. As you can see, this is a portable Nintendo Wii. It's 3D
Wow.
printed. It uses a piece of software called RV Loader. And these are all, I'm going to show them to the camera. These are all my GameCube games.
Oh man.
There's a Wii inside of this thing.
That's
That rocks.
amazing.
There's a Nintendo Wii inside of this. So the idea behind the Louie is that, once again, it's a Nintendo Wii that loads GameCube games off of USB. It uses this program for homebrewed Nintendo Wiis called Nintendont. It's the name of the
Yes.
program that loads
Uh-huh.
games via USB. And the important thing to consider here, this is not emulation. You're loading GameCube games just like a Nintendo Wii
Sure.
would run GameCube games in backwards compatibility mode. Just
Mhm.
instead of plugging in a disc, you're loading them off of USB
Off of a
because the
file.
Nintendo Wii's off of a file because
Right.
the Nintendo Wii software has been hacked.
All right.
Um,
Federico, describe this for the people listening on audio. How big is that screen? Looking at it, it's what is it, 5 or 6 inches?
I believe this is a 5-inch display. It's a
Okay.
5-inch IPS display, and I'm gonna while we're talking here, I'm gonna open a game just so that you can get a sense of what it looks like. In the meantime, it's gonna boot. It's a
It's like
5-inch.
it's a little bit chunkier. It's a little thicker than I would think. But
it's
is it
chunky.
nice to hold?
It's nice to hold. I can tell you, it's nice to hold.
Yeah.
So
it seems like it would be.
it's very nice to hold. It uses Nintendo Switch analog sticks, which I don't love, but they are serviceable. And what's nice about the Louis is that it also has support for. Oh, you can hear the Zelda music, I guess. It also has support for like pressing the shoulder buttons, either all the way down or just with the first click. And
Oh,
here's
okay.
Wind Waker.
Oh, so they're analog.
Here's
So, yeah.
Wind Waker.
Yep.
And here's the Wind Waker music. And
Wow.
the speakers are really loud.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
loud. I can hear it really well from
I'm
here.
gonna open, and this is gonna.
And is this a different aspect ratio also? What's going
So-
on here?
So this is a different aspect. I'm showing them to the camera again, and
Yeah,
It looks
Yeah,
like
so this is
16:9 maybe.
it does look like
so
16.
this is widescreen. And this is one of the many cool things about Nintendo is that and RV Loader specifically. RV Loader is the UI that you see when you first boot up the Louis. It has built-in support for forcing, for example, progressive scan, for doing things like playing at 60 hertz, and also for forcing widescreen. And
Wow.
because it's a GameCube in Nintendo Wii compatibility mode, the forced widescreen performs much better and typically works much better than forcing widescreen in Dolphin. So most games, when you
Wow.
enable the widescreen flag, they just work out of the box, like without having to install additional patches or cheat codes for playing in widescreen. So obviously, you are playing at default GameCube resolution, right? You're not upscaling, you're not installing custom textures. This is not Dolphin. Once again, this is not an emulator. This is a
Right.
Nintendo Wii having inside of its motherboard a tiny GameCube chip that says, I can also play GameCube games. But yeah, it plays those games at full speed, and it's been obviously an incredible experience. Just so
Yeah.
fun to be able to take all these games and just play them as they used to be 20 years ago, but on a portable device. The battery lasts for like 5 or 6 hours. The speakers
That's not
are
bad.
incredibly loud. You
Mhm.
can manage everything by turning off the console, connecting a USB-A to USB-C cable from your computer to the Louis, and there you will find the RV Loader file structure where I was able to drop all of my games and do all of those
Oh,
things.
that's nice.
Yeah, and because it's a Nintendo Wii, I mean, obviously the focus of this journey has been the GameCube, but this also plays Nintendo Wii games.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
How's it doing that?
you may wonder how is it doing that? Well,
Yeah.
this console comes with another piece of software called GC2 Wiimote. What
Okay.
GC2 Wiimote does is it uses the movements of the C stick to emulate a Nintendo
Interesting.
Wiimote motion controls. So
Ah,
you can play things that rely heavily on the Wiimote, like Super Mario Galaxy, for example, by using the C stick. So using an analog stick instead of moving the controller around, and you
sure.
can play those Wii games on a portable.
Wow.
And it's great. I mean, you can install custom themes. You can install cheat codes if you want to.
Mhm.
I found this incredible website that I think came out 20 years ago because the website is called MarioKartWii.com. And this website, which is fan maintained, they have a page where you can paste a Dolphin cheat code, and it's gonna spit out a different version of the cheat code in GCT format that is compatible with RV Loader and Nintendo.
Oh,
So
Cool.
shout out to the people who are still maintaining this kind of
yeah.
fan websites, because like these are incredible tools, and without this community of open source projects on GitHub, all of these pieces of software, RV Loader, Nintendo, the
Mm,
GCT converter, like all of these things are open source and on GitHub. And so shout out to those people, for building these things. And
For sure.
obviously, yeah, this has been incredible. Now, this has been the the physical part in terms of like how do I want to play these games on original hardware. So I put a bit of a spin on it, and I realized, well, instead of using a GameCube or a Nintendo Wii, what if I could make the GameCube a portable device that I could talk about on NPC and surprise John and Brendon? But the story is not over because there's more. Before we get to that, I want to talk about emulation because at the same time, I also started thinking about, well, I'm going to have a device that is an actual hardware, but I also want to have a device for emulation. And I started, as you guys know, this is not a surprise, with the RG Cube. So
Yep.
yeah,
I started with this little thing that
finally arrived.
it finally arrived. It took I had to write to Ambernick to get the first unit got lost somewhere in the Italian post office system. They shipped a second one, and I gotta say I'm in love with the RG Cube. So this is an Android-based device that has a square one-to-one display form factor. Um, it's been running GameCube games at 2x resolution just fine, and it's so pocketable and portable and lightweight. And because it runs Android, it really simplified a lot of the management of for things like downloading my games from Dropbox. I can just install Dropbox from the Google Play Store,
Sure.
and to be able to see these GameCube games, on a square display in such a tiny yet comfortable device has been a really pleasant experience.
Mm,
Obviously, if I wanted to move back and forth between playing these games on actual hardware, never mind the fact that it's a portable, but it's still actual hardware, and playing them in Dolphin, how could I go about it? Like in terms of, well, what if I want to play some Wind Waker on the Louis and then continue the same Wind Waker save file in Dolphin for Android on the RG Cube? Well, there's a way to do it. The
I'm so
the
interested. Just for context, this is a question that I tried answering for myself while we were doing prep for that episode of Into the Aether, and just thought it was
mm,
not even worth trying.
okay,
Yeah, it's hard to
okay,
do
So
this on any system. It's one of
I'm
the impediments to a lot of this stuff.
I
okay.
have used a lot of the software you have described on my modded Wii
Uh
in my
huh.
living room right now, and I'm so curious, like, what is the missing link? What is the keystone of this?
Okay. So on a modded Wii, when you're playing a GameCube game, the virtual memory card is created in a RAW format. It's like the actual RAW extension, just like photography. It's called RAW,
Mm,
and it's a RAW memory card. It's a full-on replica of a Nintendo GameCube memory card. The missing piece is Dolphin, specifically Dolphin on a Mac or PC. On desktop, Dolphin has a little built-in tool called GameCube Memory Card Manager. When you open that, you can take the raw file from a modded Wii, and you can say, take this memory card and export a CGI save that is compatible with Dolphin.
wow.
And when so you do that, you get a CGI file, and that's the save file that you can take and put inside of the Dolphin directory. When you
Hmm.
want to go the other way around, you take the CGI file. So if I want to take progress from my RG Cube and put it back on the Louis, you take the CGI file, you open Dolphin's memory card manager, and you say, take this CGI file, inject it into a raw memory card and export the raw memory card again. And
Mm,
you take that, you put it back inside of the modded Wii, and you can continue your progress from Dolphin. So I was able to figure, like, it took me a lot of research to figure this out, but I basically now have the system where I can have like, I can play GameCube games. I can choose. Do I want to play them as they originally were meant to be played? Original specs, no modern emulation, or do I want to play them with all the modern, fancy stuff on emulators? And I can. The key thing was, can I maintain my progress when I move between them? And the answer is
Yeah.
yes. So essentially, I played Paper Mario and Wind Waker, some Mario Kart Double Dash um, on the RG Cube, and I liked it so much. It made me realize. I mean, I like the RG Cube. I really like this form factor. It's very comfortable. But what I really like,
We're
I think
coming
it's
up to another hardware reveal, I feel like.
coming up two more.
Okay. What's next?
What I really like is Android. And I think I realized,
Sure.
and so long story short,
This is big for you. That's a big thing for you to say.
it's a like
It is.
like I realized, okay, when it comes to emulators and these handhelds for emulation, I just really like Android.
I'm
And
so with you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is so
I
good.
just it just you can do so many things with it. And like having suspend and resume, like I was playing Paper
Yep.
Mario before going to bed, and the next morning Sylvia and I were going to the beach, and I didn't want to take the RG Cube with me to the beach. So the night before, I would just pause Dolphin for Android, put the device to sleep, pick it up the next evening, and it was still there. Like, yes, this is the kind of experience that I want. So I
Right.
realized I like the RG Cube, but I think I like Android as a concept more than the RG Cube. And so I started thinking, well, what's the best way to have a handheld with Android for emulation? And so I have the Odin 2 now.
There you
So
go. There you
it's
Wow.
go.
yeah. So I also here it is. So yeah, I got the Odin 2. I should have listened to you guys months ago. I should have
We,
listened to you guys
we've been
last
working
year.
we've been working on this with you for
Ah,
months now, Federico.
yes. You wore me out. You were right. This device is incredible. Now I can play GameCube games even bigger because it's it's
Yeah, it's a
widescreen.
nice. Yeah.
I installed all of my patches for Wind Waker. I'm playing Wind
Mm.
Waker, 3x upscaling, custom textures, fixed camera. It's beautiful. It looks
Yeah.
absolutely. It looks like a remaster without having to wait for a remaster again.
Right.
It's
To
remarkable.
to my
Yeah.
eyes, it looks better than the Wii U HD version. Like it looks so much better without the weird bloom that they did on the Wii U remaster.
Yeah.
But yes,
I would also look into the custom textures on Twilight Princess if you're interested in
oh
playing
yeah,
that one
yeah,
day,
I'm
because
gonna do
that's
that.
like they have some 4K textures
Ooh,
out there that are remarkable for that game.
yeah, yeah. So I I'm in love with the Odin 2. I think it's an incredible device.
Hell yeah.
The battery lasts forever. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
The it feels great. It's so comfortable. It feels great in the hands. I like that it's not too clicky. Everything that it does. I installed Digisho as a launcher.
Yep. Yep.
It's
That's what I
so
use.
nice. It's just so nice. So I feel like emulation wise, I have achieved right now the best possible scenario for me, which is this device. You can install all kinds of emulators. It runs everything. It's comfortable. It's lightweight. Um, the battery lasts hours and hours. I really love it.
What color did you get again? Hold it up. Which one?
This is gray with the with the Famicom
Got it.
style
Right. Right.
rainbow buttons.
Yeah.
I really love it. So I reached a point where I was fully satisfied with the emulation.
It
But
lasted like 2
something
minutes, probably.
but something kept nagging me
Of course.
about the Louis specifically.
Mm.
I love the Louis, but I thought
You were sad that John and I didn't have one, so you got us each one also.
Thank you, Federico.
That's so nice of you, Federico.
I was gonna say something different.
Okay.
No, what kept bothering me was that it didn't feel like a GameCube. I was
Mm.
playing GameCube games. I knew there was a Wii inside, but it didn't feel like a GameCube, right?
Right.
And so I started doing I did a lot of YouTube research, a lot of hanging around these forums, incredible forum board called bitbuilt.net, where people build all kinds of portables. Like there's an Xbox 360 portable now. There's a
Oh,
PlayStation
wow.
2 portable. It's incredible what the community of modders is doing. And I came across this thing called an Ashida Wii.
Mm.
And so I want you guys to Google it. I want you guys to Google ASHIDA
Whoa.
Ashida
Yeah.
Wii. Um, And so,
Oh, wow.
Hello.
well, here it is.
Oh, wow.
This is
So,
Oh, that looks amazing.
incredible.
so I went back to my friend Ginger of Mods and I said, well, here's the thing. I love the Louis. There isn't any chance that you can build a custom Ashida Wii for me with the original GameCube color, original GameCube parts for the
Yeah.
joysticks and the buttons, and also, is there any way you can put Wi-Fi and Bluetooth inside of it? And it was like, it's gonna take me a few months, but yeah, I think I can do it. And sure enough,
Whoa.
uh, I'm gonna turn it on now. This is
That's
the Ashida
incredible.
Wii. This is. It looks like a GameCube. It feels like a GameCube. It's actually a Nintendo Wii inside, and it's using the same system as the Louis. And here it is, all my games once again, showing them to the
Oh
camera.
man.
This is so much more. This is, and I'm not kidding. This has to be the most comfortable handheld I've ever used.
I bet.
It's basically the two halves of a Nintendo GameCube controller using original GameCube parts. All of the buttons, all of the sticks, all of the shoulder buttons are original GameCube. It's got two Z triggers, obviously, because you need to emulate
Split it.
R
Yeah.
R1 and L1 for the
Interesting.
yeah. The GameCube only had one Z trigger. This one has two. Um, but yeah, it's basically it feel. This is what I meant when like I wanted to play GameCube games on a portable device, but it also had to feel like a GameCube. I had to wait two and a half months for this device to arrive. And what's even nicer about this is that this has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So if I want to boot into Nintendo Wii mode, where I can see the Nintendo Wii menu, I can pair multiple Wiimotes and I can pair multiple controllers. And technically, and here's Paper Mario. You can see I'm playing Paper Mario
There he is.
right here. Uh, the thing about this device is that uh, I can use homebrew software with Wi-Fi. I can pair multiple Wii controllers over Bluetooth, and when I'm playing GameCube games, the controller feels exactly because it is just split in half. It is a GameCube controller. It's got USB-C. It's got better cooling than the Louis because it's a thermals are different inside. It's got a little dial for volume. It's incredible, and it just makes me so happy to play with this device. It's like it's like one of those mock-ups from when I was little, like those concepts. Like imagine if Nintendo made a portable GameCube. It
Right.
looks
Yeah.
Right.
when you first look at it, it looks fake, and I'm gonna send you pictures after. It looks fake, and I can tell you it's not fake. There's a Nintendo Wii in here, and it just I absolutely love this thing. It has to be, I think, it is one of my all-time favorite handhelds, like next to the GBA probably. It's a dream come true for me to have an actual portable GameCube. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know if you guys have any questions now. This has been my journey for the past 3 months.
That's
Just
amazing, Federico. It's amazing. How much does it weigh? Does it feel heavy at all to you?
it is heavy, but
Mm.
the way it is designed, when you're holding the two halves of the controller, because the weight is in the middle, you don't
Sure.
really feel it. I think it's really well balanced. Yeah, and it's
Well,
once again, it's so comfortable,
yeah,
like
the grips look
holding it.
amazing. I mean, that
Yeah,
is a good, that looks like that would be really comfortable to hold.
yeah, and shout out obviously to Ginger of Mods for getting the right color. This is like really high quality 3D print, really high quality parts. The IPS display looks great. All
Mm.
of the and obviously when you're playing something like Mario Sunshine or Luigi's Mansion, this is a real GameCube
Yeah. Real analog
analog,
triggers.
real
Yeah.
Yeah.
analog. So you can feel like the pressure sensitivity and all of that, and the
Right.
click at the end. Like this feels like playing GameCube in a way that no other emulator really can match. And so, yeah, the goal for me was to have this two-way system where I could enjoy all the benefits of emulation, and that's primarily thanks to the AN Odin. But also, what if I wanted, really high fidelity, really a really pristine and pure you know, almost audiophile level
Sure.
experience
Yeah.
for GameCube. Well, that's the Ashida Wii, a portable GameCube that I custom built just for me. That also happens to be a Nintendo Wii with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi.
Wow.
What's the audio situation on the
Oh,
Ashita Wii?
yes. So, really loud speakers. You
Yeah,
have stereo speakers in the front, here and here, but you also have a headphone jack
that was gonna be my
at the
question.
bottom.
That's awesome.
And I've been using this device lately, this accessory made by 12 South called the AirFly Pro
Oh yeah, I've
that
got one of those.
it lets me use my AirPods
Yeah.
with the Ashida Wii, the Louie, the RGQ, like basically everywhere.
Right.
Now I'm just using my AirPods and I plug in the AirFly whenever I want, and it works great. Yeah, but otherwise the speakers are very loud.
Yeah. Okay, my other question, what's the heat like? Like when you're holding it, because I imagine that fan, I saw there's like an exhaust fan on the back.
There's a air intake in the back and
Yeah,
exhaust at the top.
at the top. Okay.
The thermals, the cooling is much better on the Ashida than on the Louis,
That makes
because
sense.
I feel like the Louis is a lot more compact.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's smaller.
Not as thick as the Ashida. The Louis can get warm. You can feel it when you leave your hands in the back here. You can feel the warmth here.
Yeah.
I think because of the extra space, the cooling and the thermals are like much better on the Ashida, and as a result, the fan doesn't get as loud. That said, when you're using RV Loader, you can go into settings and set custom thresholds for temperatures and fan curves.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if you wanna, I just left the defaults that Ginger of Mods enabled for me. But if you want to, you can change that.
Wow.
Yeah.
This rocks. This is so cool. I love that you did this for yourself, and I'm curious where it leaves the Odin in your life going forward. Because I think if I had the Ashita Wii, I would probably be using that for all GameCube and Wii stuff for the most part. Um, so I feel like we are. I'm gonna say 1 to 2 months away from some interesting Odin revelation on your end. Also, uh,
Mm.
it's exciting. It's an exciting spot for you to be in. But I do feel like also with those two devices, you're kind of where I feel like I'm at as well, where it's like I now have the Odin Mini, which I'll talk about on a future episode. And I've been using the Anbernic 28XX, and like those two devices, I feel like that's all I need for the time being. I feel at
Yeah.
equilibrium for the first time
Yeah.
in a long time, really.
Yeah, that's kind of the what I've been searching for too, is that kind of right balance between these things. And what I think is really amazing about the Odin is that it gives you the flexibility to find that other device that kind of balances out for you, and then
Yeah.
fill in whatever gaps remain with the Odin. And that's kind of what I've been doing. And
Yeah.
I've got some new stuff coming for a future episode too to talk about.
Nice.
So
Nice.
we're all kind
Yeah.
of getting. I think we're all heading in similar places. It'll be interesting to see which devices we all kind of land on ultimately.
We're
with
each
these
gonna buy
things.
one of the AYANEO devices.
Oh no. Oh
We have to
no.
draw straws to see who has to get the DMG.
Yeah.
But no, but I feel like also part of the reason why I got the Odin was that I really didn't like the RG Cube for Nintendo DS emulation. I
Oh,
wanted
interesting.
to play Bringer, which I received
Oof.
and I applied the patch, but
Yeah.
the two screens on the RG Cube really hard to see one of them because if you're making
Interesting.
one of them smaller, it becomes really hard to see. So one of the I think
Yeah.
honestly where I will end up will be where I play most of my Nintendo GameCube games and Wii games on the Ashida.
Mm.
Some of them that I wanna enjoy with like sleep and resume or like textures, like the Zeldas. Basically, the Zelda games I will play on the Odin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else on the Ashida. Mostly use the Odin for DS emulation and PS1 emulation. Like, because otherwise, like, there's really 2 or 3 games that I want to play on Dolphin for Android. That's Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, possibly Mario Sunshine. But even then, Mario Sunshine, it really feels good with the real analog of the Ashida. So yeah, I think it's gonna be just the Zelda games that I will
Mm.
play on the Odin, and mostly
Interesting.
the Odin is gonna be about the DS because with Drastic or what's it called? What's the other one? Melon DS. on
Yeah.
the Odin, you can put them side by side
Yep.
instead of one on top of the other, and that I think is much more comfortable than doing, the tiny virtual screen on the RG Cube.
Yeah, that rocks. That's really great. I'm curious if you're gonna dip into Switch at all, because I know you've kind of messed around with that a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, I
Switch on the
do.
Odin's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to
Maybe
think
maybe
about
we
it.
talk about that in Discord. We bring that to a future episode, because I've been experimenting with that a little bit on the Mini as well.
Yeah, I'd like to hear
and
more about that.
It's been interesting.
Yeah. So that's the big reveal.
Amazing.
I love this for you. That's great.
It was a journey, but yeah, I'll send you guys photos. Of
What
it.
a summer.
It was-
What a summer. When did
it
you
was
start?
so-
When did this
so-
all start? Like in May or
So,
something?
by the way, this started in late April to early May.
Okay.
Our friend Mike Hurley saw and used
Oh,
the
that's
Louis
what he
in
saw.
person. Yes, in
Oh,
London
funny.
when I went to the iPad Pro event in London, and I have a video of surprising Mike with the Louis. It was like for 30 seconds he like looked at it and was like,
What
I
is
have
this?
no idea what it is. I'm
Yeah.
like, what am I looking at? I have no idea. I was like, it's a Nintendo Wii. I was like, shut up. It's how?
That rocks.
Yeah. Oh boy, John, take us home.
All right. Well, thanks, Federico. That's an awful lot to digest. I'm sure we'll have some follow-up for you in a future episode. In the meantime, though, you can find all of us online. Just go find Brendon. Brendon is Brendon Bigley in most places. I'm at John Voorhees in most places, and Federico is at Fetici. You can also find Brendon at wavelengths.online, his blog, and on Into the Aether, his other podcast. Plus, you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening.